A couple of weeks ago, Arsenal were rock bottom in the English Premier League. They'd conceded 9 goals in their 3 opening league games, so naturally, there was talk of a potential crisis brewing at the Emirates. Their bitter rivals Tottenham Hotspur, on the other hand, were on top of the league standings and were doing fairly well under their new manager Nuno Espirito Santo. Things have not gone according to plan for the London Giants in the last few years. The arrival of Mikel Arteta, who served as Pep Guardiola's right-hand man at Man City for several years, was believed to quickly transform their fortunes. However, it wasn't to be, as the Spanish tactician struggled to deliver on a regular basis, with an FA Cup triumph proving to be nothing more than an anomaly, and a result of other matches in the knockout competition going in their favour. This summer, the Gunners spent a lot of money in the transfer market in order to assemble a team that would at least be able to challenge for a top 4 place. They were the biggest spenders in the summer transfer window, committing around £156.8 million on new players. Go back 6 years and the Londoners were the only team in Europe's top 5 leagues to not sign an outfield player. This time around though, they've tried to address a lot of key areas on the pitch, including a potential number 1 for the next decade. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on your notifications so that you won't have to miss out on any of the stuff that we post on a daily basis. The 5-0 thrashing at the hands of Manchester City should be seen as a watershed moment. The Gunners were outplayed in every department, and if there was a moment to change things, that was it. I remember a pundit talking about the transfer mistakes made by the club in recent years. The likes of Lucas Torreira, Reiss Nelson, Matteo Guendouzi and William Saliba failed to get going. This is a club that's been burdened by past mistakes and entrapped itself by high contracts. From the outside, it appears that Arsenal are a club backing a manager who has exiled quite a few players. However, the defeat at City was what was needed for them to regroup. Since then, the Gunners have been on a 4-game unbeaten run that culminated in a 3-1 win over Tottenham. In recent years, Arteta's men have struggled to do well against their bitter rivals, but the first half performance, we'll get into that in detail later, showed that there is definitely a good team there somewhere. If you look at the transfers made by the club this summer, they hint at a shift in policy. Last year, the Gunners decided to pursue a short-term strategy by handing lucrative deals to ageing stars such as Pierre Emerick Aubameyang, David Luiz and Willian. All 3 men underachieved last season, and Willian in particular should consider himself lucky that he had an honourable departure from the club. This time around, the policy has seen a seismic shift towards hiring younger players. Of course, it makes sense to sign players between 20 and 24 years old, since at least you have a chance to see them flourish in the future. Ben White and Aaron Ramsdale are both 23 and could have great futures for England as well. Takehiro Tomiyasu and Martin Odegaard have played top-flight football all around Europe, but they're only 24 years old. Albert Sambi Lokonga and Nuno Tavares have shown promise whenever given the chance, and at 21, those will only get better. And then you've got players who've been at the club for the last couple of years, such as Kieran Tierney, Gabriel Magalhaes, Bukayo Saka, Emile Smith-Rowe and Gabriel Martinelli. All these players are either 23 or under. The club paid big money to sign White and Ramsdale, but they aren't being given the wages that the likes of Willian and Luiz were enjoying. William Saliba and Matteo Guendouzi are great talents, but it appears that Arteta hasn't been impressed by their attitude, which is why the duo is now back in France and might never return to play for the Gunners. Some might find such decisions controversial, but as long as Arsenal continue to add consistency to their displays, these decisions will be forgotten in time. Since the international break, Arsenal have turned their fortunes around. Following hard-fought wins over Burnley and Norwich, the Gunners' biggest test was on the horizon with the home game against Tottenham, a team that flatters to deceive, but has enough quality to cause problems to the best teams in Europe on its best day. The Gunners came in guns blazing in the first period of the game, scoring 3 goals and running riot. Emile Smith-Rowe was leading the line, ably supported by Odegaard, while Bukayo Saka was playing down the right wing in the same manner he had for England at the Euros. After enduring such a difficult start to the campaign, you can forgive the fans for being so excited at the result. Once rock bottom, Mikel Arteta's side are above Spurs in the top half of the table and trail Liverpool by only 5 points. Of course, they might struggle to mount a title assault, but the manner in which they played against Spurs shows that a top 4 finish should be a primary target. Arsenal were rampant for 45 minutes and blew Spurs away, like Arteta was convinced that his young side can. The average age of the starting 11 was 24, and Aubameyang was the only player over the age of 30. This youthful exuberance is what was Spurs' undoing. Takahiro Tomiyasu arrived at Arsenal without much candour, but the Japan international was such a colossus at right back. He has effectively replaced Hector Bellerin and was not dribbled past a single time. Not just that, he had Son Heung-min's number, keeping the Korean international in his pocket all day long. Thomas Partey has returned from a lengthy layoff and bossed the midfield, while Ødegaard was a joy to watch. The brilliant win over Tottenham might end up just being another one of those days where Arsenal flatter to deceive. We've seen that over the years. Arteta hasn't had such moments ever since he returned to the club. Last season, a win over Manchester United was seen as a turning point, and then the Gunners went for another period of sheer mediocrity. And of course, we understand why a few fans will be a little too cautious about their feelings. Arsenal have struggled a lot, and it's not easy to digest the win over Tottenham. But then again, Arteta has made so many changes to personnel and has finally found his best starting 11. Gabriel is now the perfect partner to Ben White at the heart of defence, and the Brazilian's energetic displays are well worth watching. Tomiyasu has done well so far, like we already said. Nicolas Pepe was supposed to be an instant success, but the Ivorian has struggled a lot and has been taken out of the side in favour of Saka, who's done very well for himself. Now, the most important thing that's happened in the last few weeks is that Arsenal have stopped believing in the age-old mantra of experience outweighing everything. They've had ageing stars in their squad for several years, but did it ever help them? It was clear that the likes of David Luiz and Willian no longer had the same hunger to win games, let alone titles. However, the young players at the club realised the opportunity that they've been given. Not many Premier League clubs bank on youth to get the job done these days. Arsenal, however, may have unearthed a new strategy where the expectations are put on the shoulders of young players. At times it will backfire, but as long as these players are grabbing those important takeaways from testing circumstances, the club will only be the better for it. Promoting academy players is another reason why the last 3 weeks have been great for Arteta. These players spent a lot of time chasing the dream to play for a club that they grew up supporting, and once they got the chance to do so, they made it count. Emile Smith-Rowe is one of the brightest young talents in English football, and he's done really well since last season. You've got to give Arteta credit for what he's done. The Spanish tactician has found the best positions for every player and has made full use of his squad. There is, of course, a lot of work that's still left to be done. Arsenal are definitely not there yet. They play Brighton next week, who might be on top of the league by the time Arsenal come over. However, a win over Graham Potter's side would be a great way for us to assess whether the Gunners are really back for good, or if it's yet another false dawn before another torrid spell.